It's time for Let's Get Real with your host from Bob Richards and Associates, Bob Richards.
Well, Bob Richards, how are you, young
Doing
man?
great, Michael. Thank you.
Good to see you. Hey, Happy New Year.
Can you believe it?
2025.
Yes, sir.
You know, it seems like just a few days ago, it was 2024.
It was.
But
I know. It just it goes by way too fast.
an entire new year is upon us. So are you excited
I
for
am.
this new year?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always great things ahead. Always like to say, okay, goodbye to the last year and
Yeah.
where are we at to improve on for the upcoming year.
So-
I'm excited about.
So speaking of improving
Yeah.
for the coming year, so I know you've been doing this for, a couple of years at least,
A couple of years. Yeah.
30.
33.
So in the past 433 years that you've
There you
been
go.
selling real estate, what changes have you seen, in particular the last couple of years that we've gone through, and then we'll get into what are we looking forward to the new year.
Thanks, Michael. And I don't want to beat around the bush. That's why I call it Let's Get Real. I want to give you information that is accurate, up to date, up to speed, and not something that was years or decades ago, because that was then, and here we're living in the now. But some things that I've noticed that have changed in our marketplace has been we have seen an absolute increase and explosion of residential real estate homes and developments and commercial. You've seen a dramatic change here within our community here in Southern Utah. There's a lot of consumer confidence. There's a lot of if you would, betting on the future and seeing that growth take place with additional retail, medical, housing, restaurants, all sorts of things that are complementary to our area, and other things that we've not yet seen that will get into the financial sector. We'll get more into larger buildings that will be built. We'll get into the technology centers of things. Here at Dixie State, things will continue to explode and grow. So those are just kind of general overviews. But as we get into the real estate market, there's certainly been some changes over the last couple of years that will impact us now, latter part of 24, and certainly on from 25 and beyond. May I share those with you?
Well, please do,
All
Mr.
right.
I mean, we're sitting here. We're going to do that anyway.
We'll keep after it. All right,
Let's do it.
Folks, there's some changes in the real estate laws. It's becoming a little bit more complicated for you as a consumer, and want to just be straight up front with you that that's the case. That if you're feeling like that you could save money, quote unquote, by not using a realtor on your side, you're going to be grossly mistaken, and it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars in making that decision. Oh, we can do this on our own. You can't anymore. Literally, there is too many other regulations, laws, rules, contracts, deadlines that really impede you as a consumer from being able to do it on your own, or to go to a title company and say, hey, will you write this up? Folks, that's a contractual agreement that they have no party or no interest in. And so, yeah, they'll write what you want them to write, but it does not give you the ability to have any legal counsel, professional counsel, experience from someone that's been seasoned or a veteran in the industry. Those things will have a tremendous impact on your future financially, as well as your enjoyment of the home. Were you lied to? Could you have been properly educated, maybe a little bit more? That somebody said, well, there's this and this, but there was more that they said this, and this that they didn't share. That really can cause some issues too. Contractually, let me share a little bit about on that, Michael. There has been, since the latter part of 2024, some significant changes as it relates to real estate purchase contracts. There's some additional addenda. There's additional paperwork that needs to be filled out and agreed upon by buyer and buyer's agent, in addition to the seller and the seller's agent. For instance, new law. I cannot take a potential buyer out to see any homes until I have a buyer-broker agreement signed by me and that buyer that says loyalty from the agent to the buyer and the buyer to the agent. Before I can get in the car, and I can't even get them in the front door, that has to be signed, no exceptions. Then that agreement, it states what the buyer will be paying as the buyer broker compensation for my services. Now, in the past, it was supposed that the seller was paying that.
Yeah.
And they did. It was part of the purchase price. It was part of the overall package of the sale that it included brokerage fees. There was some closing costs involved, and all of that is part of the overall net to the seller as well as the expenses to the seller. Well, now, Michael, there is a change where if I'm as a buyer's agent pursue a property for a buyer and in behalf of a buyer, we negotiate a contract that doesn't guarantee me being compensated for my fee by the seller. And so in the brokerage agreement with the buyer, it states that if the seller is not offering compensation, then the buyer pays that compensation fee to their agent in the amount of some sort of percentage. If the agent and seller on the listing side says we're offering 2.5%, on your buyer broker agreement that you've signed before taking anybody out and walking them through the front door, let's say it says 3%. Well, the buyer now pays that other 0.5% because the agreement said 3%. If the only compensation is from the seller at 2.5%, well, like I say, the compensation is made up for by the buyer. That was very vague before. It wasn't really talked about or explained that way in years before, decades before. It was just part of the deal that the seller paid the brokerage fees. They still do, but it's disclosed or presented, in a different fashion than what we've been used to for a number of years.
So with this new law, basically everybody knows what's going on. So the seller knows they're going to have to pay a commission. The buyer knows that if the seller doesn't pay the commission that we need to, it's on me to pay it. And what it is, it helps to protect you as the agent so that you get paid.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. And it's not all about that getting paid. It's just a matter of, okay, with that representation as a buyer's agent to a buyer, it's not just here's the kitchen, sign here, press hard, and where's my check? There's certain fiduciary duties, as you know, and most of the public understands, but maybe not all the way understanding what that agent needs to, should do, have to do, that they may not be educated to know what those are.
Yeah.
And shame on the agent for not being experienced. And unfortunately, the buyer pays dearly.
So let's say that you get an agreement with the buyer for 3%, but the selling agent, the seller, is only going to pay 2.5%. Is the agreement you have with the buyer, is that adjustable, or can it be negotiated? Does you get together and say, okay, so you guys are supposed to pay me 3. I know that you don't have the money, because if we do that, then you're not going to be able to get the house, because now you got to come up with another 20 grand, whatever. Is that something that you can work out with the buyer?
Yeah, there is. One thing that I can't receive is if the buyer broker agreement I have with the buyer says a 3% fee is being paid at closing for my services. And let's say the seller is offering 4%. Well, my agreement says 3. Guess what, Michael? I don't get 4. I get 3. So if my buyer broker commission buyer broker commission fee with the buyer when we first start is 2%, and again, let's say the seller's offering 3 or 4, well, guess what? I get paid 2%. That's it. So up front, the buyer knows, here is my fee. Now, you're right. If things get down to the nitty-gritty and it needs to be where I need to chip in or concede some funds from my fee, yes, I can certainly do that with the buyer, with their permission, my broker's permission, and then we can facilitate still the deal. I will not stand in the way of a transaction closing because of my fee being too high. Yeah, I enjoy this business. Like I say, it's been 33 years, coming up on 34 in May. I don't do this to be someone that is selfishly wealthy. I do this because I want to help buyers and sellers reach their real estate goals. That's the dollars to me. They're almost a side note. The activity really is in the boots on the ground, face-to-face, let's work together. Let's contractually negotiate a deal that's going to favor you as my client the most and the best.
I think that's an admirable attitude, which, by the way, Bob, is probably why you've been in business for 33 years, because people know your attitude and respect that, and you're an honest, forthright guy. But let me ask you another question
Sure,
here.
please.
So if you're changing the terms of the contract, is that something that you, the broker, the buyer and seller, can do on your own, or do you need to get an attorney involved as well, which then might add to the whole, add a few bucks to get the attorney in there? Or is it something you can do on your own?
Very good question. Yes and yes. So meaning that could an attorney be involved? Oh, yes, absolutely. Can they sometimes get in the way? Oh, yes, absolutely. Can they sometimes kill a deal? Oh, yes, absolutely. Can they be a big help? Absolutely, they can, especially in a complicated transaction. Well, let's say there's just a 200 acres, and those acres are on 4 or 5 different parcels, and how to marry those into the transaction, into the warranty deed, and the transfer of ownership. Sometimes that attorney has that legalese information that would be just enough frosting on the cake that would make a difference. I have a home that is in Green Valley right now that sits next to the seller's home, and they own the home side by side. Well, the seller has an observatory. He loves stargazing and looking in the skies late at night. He's put a CC&R adjustment stating that the person that buys the home next to him that I have listed, they can't put up foliage, desertscape, trees, or fencing that is above 3 to 4 feet tops. The reason for that is if he moves his observatory towards the south-southeast, that plant, tree, foliage, or fence may obstruct his ability to have that clear view. So if it's a plant or desertscape or some sort of a agave or tamarack tree, something that would be small in stature and remain small, no big deal. And then also the seller says, the owner of this house says, the owner of the home Bob is selling, when I'm dead and gone, not me, but the owner next door, when I'm dead and gone, that's gone away. It can be lifted from title. It can be lifted off the restrictions, and the buyer can do and plant and do whatever they want to after I die.
So how old is this guy?
Yeah, good question. He's in his late 70s. Nice guy, probably going on his 60s, but very smart that way. That if he has that ability to control that he's doing so, but not prohibiting the buyer from being so restrictive that they feel like, well, I've got to walk on pins and needles every time I go on my back patio. No, there's just a small space that we've measured as being the area of restriction. But not everything on the back patio or the backyard, or it's just a small section. Okay. That kind of time, a legal attorney would be involved.
So, Bob, I don't know if you noticed, but a few months ago, we had this thing. It was, an election.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. And it looks like, so we're going to get a new president. Do you think that the results of the election are going to have an impact on interest rates and all the things that are attached to that? What is your prognosis because of this election, which is what we might term a little more business-friendly, a little more user-friendly, consumer-friendly? What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. That's a great question. I get that question a lot by email, by text, by phone call from people. We were all on pins and needles wondering what was going to happen in the election of this year. And whether your candidate won or lost, it's changed the confidence of the public really nationwide, where there's so much more optimism and excitement, and this is going to come, and this is going to change, this is going to be better, and we're going to see this economy of ours and being able to work well with other people, businesses, etc. Here's the situation on rates. I keep telling people this, and I will continue to tell people this. Rates are not going down. Nothing significant. You might see an eighth to a quarter, but if you see things in the fives or are waiting for something in the 5% area, you're going to keep waiting. And in the 4s and 3s and 2s, you will wait forever in your life and never see that again, nor will your kids, nor will your grandkids see that low of a rate. If the economy is doing well, rates go up. If the economy is not doing so well, like 2020, 21, 22, when everything was shut down, rates plummeted. To at least get something going with borrowing money and using that for improvements on an existing home, maybe getting a business purchase, whatever that might be. But it had to be something that would keep the machine rolling in the United States. Well, now that machine is going to roll, hopefully, optimistically, I'm that way, that in our future we will see some great things take place. But with that, folks, understand rates will go up. I have told people that by summer or fall of 25, we will be in the 7s and possibly low 8s. Our normal real estate market is 8% rates.
Wow.
That's a normal rate. That's a normal interest rate. But we have seen so many times where people are like, well, because we had this so low, it'll come back. Sorry, folks. Again, rates are going to go up. So date the rate, marry the home, and if there's some opportunity to refinance later, do so. I'm just not saying that chance may happen. It very well likely will not.
I like that saying, date the rate, marry the home.
Marry the home.
And wait for good things to happen because at least you're in.
Absolutely.
You can always refinance.
Absolutely.
So I know a lot of times when rates go down, people are thinking, oh, rates are going down. It's going to be so great. But generally what happens when the rates go down, then the home prices go up.
Prices go up.
So I think there's like a Goldilocks zone in there somewhere where the rates are down and the home prices haven't gone up yet. And if you miss that, well, then you just got to...
You got to ride the wave.
Ride the wave and marry the home.
And marry the home.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely right.
All right. Well,
absolutely right.
I'm actually pretty excited about that.
Me too.
So, Bob, here in our local area, sometimes I get the feeling that we think that we're like separate and apart from the rest of the world and the rest of the country. So what are some key factors that separate our local market from the rest of the state and the rest of the country?
Thanks. Again, folks, be aware of the noise that's out there on TV, on podcasts, on texts, messages, social media about a real estate market or the real estate market in the United States. We are, yes, part of the United States, but Southern Utah, Washington County, even over to Moab and other areas, it is an entirely different market than what the country may say the real estate market is. So when you see prices are falling and price changes galore and builders are selling far below their cost, great. Welcome to St. George, and I'll absolutely tell you the opposite. We're a very healthy, very vibrant market. We have a lot of things going on, and like I said earlier, a lot of things yet to come. And so just be very sensitive to making sure what you're listening to is applicable to your area. Don't think that what St. George has is exactly like Salt Lake or Park City or Denver or Phoenix. We are not. We are unique, as other markets are unique. We are a unique market that is very different than what you will hear from noise across the country.
Linda and I were driving around town the last couple of weeks, and, I've only been here 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. So I came from the Southern California area, and I can see what's going on, what's happened in the last 2.5 years. So we're driving out there towards like Hurricane and both the back, up by Sand Hollow and all these places. All of a sudden, we see things springing up and giant road graders and tractors and housing developments and commercial buildings, like where there used to be like desert sand and rabbits.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, what is causing all of this explosive growth in our area? What's going on here? Somebody discovered there's gold and diamonds laying on the ground and
in the red sand somewhere.
Go pick it up.
Yeah. Michael, it's very simple. Lifestyle, clear skies, blue skies, no pollution, awesome temperatures, sunshine, so many days out of the year, far better than any sort of inversion or snow or cold. I'll take it all. But those are really, honestly, the basics. Then you have the outdoors, the activities of doing things outdoors, hiking, biking, walking, swimming, pickleball, tennis. It just goes on that way. And because you can play it so many times out of the year and not just a few months, then that attracts that appeal. But again, that sunshine, that vitamin D, people dig that because it helps them mentally feel better and feel like they're on top of their game. And they just feel healthier. And they are healthier because they're spending so much time outside.
Yeah, well, I certainly agree with that. And, you know, I had some people, they were asking me, so they're thinking about moving here.
Uh-huh.
And they said, so I heard it gets like really hot there in the summer. And I go, you know, it's not that bad. There's a couple months where we have triple digits. But I said last summer was fairly warmish. I said I went outside. I was sweating like bingo night. It's like, whoa. So when that happens, you just take a dip in the pool or get a water wiggle and run in the front yard.
Or go to Costco and put your head in the freezer for a little while just to kind of cool off.
We have done that. We go to Costco and Linda says, go and get me some butter. No, I'll get the butter. It's like 40 degrees in there. Well, I'm excited about what's happening in our local area, in the real estate market, and also in the rest of the country. I think that what's poised to happen, what I forecast will happen, is that we're in a rising tide.
Yes.
And the rising tide is going to raise all the boats. Doesn't matter where you live, St. George or anywhere in the United States, which could even mean Canada if we get Canada or Greenland.
Yeah.
You never know. But I'm looking forward to a great and extremely prosperous 2025.
Agreed. Yeah, the wave's going to be awesome to ride for these next upcoming years and not be so discouraging or imploding or feeling like that it's not going anywhere or going backwards. I never had a wave go backwards, but anyway, this is going to be a good gig ahead.
So, Mr. Bob, if someone wants to talk to you about listing their home or buying a new one, how can they contact you today?
Thanks, Michael. So I work at Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate down in downtown St. George. We're in the Ancestor Square, where you'd find Painted Pony, Pizza Factory, etc. Best way to reach me is honestly by text, 435-703-8824. Then give me a call, shoot me an email, but honestly, text with my phone being by me all day long and into the night. That's really the best initial way. For instance, if I'm with you as I am, my phone's been ringing, but it's usually a text. So it's not interrupting our time together. And I don't have to worry about somebody not leaving a voicemail. They can simply say, hey, give me a call. This is who I am. I'd like some more information about something. So anyway, 435-703-UTAH. And certainly subscribe to the podcast that you're seeing and other podcasts that I have. BuyUtah.com is certainly where you'd find my internet site and certainly find some great information about the community, about the area. If you want to know anything about St. George, BuyUtah.com.
Yeah, and let's remind folks also that they can watch and subscribe to all of your podcasts on YouTube. So it's on YouTube. It's Let's Get Real is the name of the channel. Let's Get Real. And you can check out everything there. Well, Mr. Bob, thank you so much. It's been a joy and a pleasure to chat with you today.
Thanks, Michael.
Take care.
This has been Let's Get Real with Bob Richards from Bob Richards & Associates. For more information, buyutah.com. We invite you to return again for another edition of Let's Get Real with Bob Richards from Bob Richards & Associates.